All right, it is June 8th, day 66, as I check my spreadsheet that they were just teasing me about. Here with Rabbit and Shade.
Morning.
Morning.
So this will be another installment of Zero Day Hiker Chat, albeit breakfast, albeit ice cream breakfast edition here. Yeah, right.
We eat nutritiously.
So these are the two guys, of course, who are helping me stay alive through the Sierra here. So far, so good. Still alive.
Still alive.
Yeah.
How's everyone feeling?
Honestly, quite refreshed.
Really?
Finally got proper sleep last night, so
Yeah.
It was incredible. Got I think 10 hours of sleep. It was amazing.
Yeah, that was good. Rabbit, good.
Oh yeah,
Just chilling.
beds are amazing.
Yeah.
It's the
Incredible
newest
adventure.
thing.
So let's do just like a quick, I don't know, like, so who are, I mean, I know we've already done like the what's your name, where are you from, but maybe like one more, I don't know, a little bit more explanation, like what, if anything, have you hiked before? What are you into otherwise? I mean, what's the rest of your life look like? Just, just a couple words about who you are, I guess. I don't know.
I'm currently a college student, so I'm just taking a bit of time from kind of the hustle bustle and rat race of life, I guess, and just trying to get out and see the world. And Thru-Hiking seemed like the coolest way to kind of do that. I also just really like the outdoors. I'm hoping to spend kind of the rest of my life outside. I'm majoring in environmental science, and hopefully we'll work in like a national park or with wildlife or something. And so this just feels like just part of a very natural course of things that I would like to do.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and I graduated with a mechanical engineering degree this past December, and going to grad school in September. So I had all the time in between to do whatever I wanted to do, which is pretty awesome. So I was out in California for an internship this past summer, and really liked the nature out there. Went to Yosemite, Sequoia, as you do. And just, there was a moment where I was like, at Glacier Point, you can just see out into the mountains, and I was like, I want to be out there. And so that kind of put this idea of doing what we're doing right now in my mind, and here I am.
Yeah. It's funny because you're from Georgia, and I feel like usually people would just start with their home trail, as I did, and do the AT first, but I guess it was just a trip to California that really, I mean, it's totally different. It's tough not to love it out here, like out in the West. So.
Yeah, it's, I mean, everywhere you look, it's just an amazing view. And I don't know, I was impatient in a way, but I think reasonably so. Like, I don't know when I'll have 5 months to devote to doing exactly what I want to do again. So I did the one I wanted to do.
Good for you. Good for you. And had you, Shay, did you always wanted to do a Thru-Hike, or was it just sort of something that popped up, or because I feel like you had some scouting or something?
Yeah, I've always been really into the outdoors, really into hiking, and I found about the PCT quite a few years ago, and as soon as I figured out kind of what it was, I was like, oh, I want to do that. Like, I want to find a way to take off like a chunk of time. I even thought about one point, like, maybe just like not going to college, and unfortunately, like, not unfortunately, but still went to college and found a way to do both. But as soon as I found out Thru-Hiking, it kind of just made sense. I like living out of a backpack. I like traveling and seeing different things, meeting the people every day. And of course, I grew up in California, and so a lot of the stuff that we've seen so far has been kind of in my backyard. And so to truly be able to like get out and see it all and experience it to kind of its like fullest was just something I always wanted to do, and finally found a way to make happen.
Yeah. So how's it going so far? I mean, so we're 800 miles in, a touch over 800 miles in. We've seen a pretty darn different environment this past couple weeks than we had for the couple months prior to that.
Right.
I imagine, in the desert, I think everyone was pretty blown away, I hope, by the wildflowers, because they were amazing. But, how is it squaring with whatever expectations you may have had prior to coming in, just in general, as sort of like an approach? And then we'll talk about like favorite sections or most horrifying moments or whatever in a minute. So, maybe Rabbit? I don't know.
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know if I came in with any particular expectations.
Yeah.
I knew it would be an amazing experience. I knew it would also be tough at times.
Yeah.
I was a little bit worried that I wouldn't like the walking all the time, but
That's a big part of it.
yeah, it is. Because, like, I mean, a lot of my motivation, honestly, was just, I really like being outdoors, the views, like, really like just taking in nature. And walking isn't necessarily, like, I was worried that I was going to be mostly walking to camp instead of camping so I could walk. And it's kind of been both. Where I've really found that I enjoy the walking as well. So
yeah, that's a cool distinction. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, walking to camp instead of camping to walk. That's interesting. I like that. That's fun. Yeah.
But yeah, it's been really interesting this year with the whole very wet year. The desert, as you said, was absolutely beautiful. I love the flowers all over the place. And I think I got lucky with my timing because I flipped up and did Action to Walker Pass.
That's right.
After getting to Paradise Valley Cafe, and that worked out super well. Missed most of the snow, and the flowers on that jump were amazing as well. So I think I really ended up timing it well, accidentally.
Yeah.
But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just works out, though. I feel like that's part of the trail too. So
yeah.
All right. Cool. And how has this gone for your expectations here, Miss Shade?
I feel like I had a kind of similar worries as you in the sense of people ask you, you know, aren't you going to get bored out there, like walking for, you know, so many hours every single day and doing the same thing every day? And I feel like the distinction that people don't realize is you're really not doing the same thing every day. Like, yes, you're walking every day, and yes, you're hiking and you're camping and you're filtering your water and doing all of that. But ultimately, you're seeing something completely different and new every single day. And so it never really feels nearly as monotonous as I feel like a lot of people make it out to be. And I feel like that has been one of the most like surprising and incredible things. I feel like you're meeting so many people every single day, and to meet so many people kind of in like the exact same community and who have a lot of the same like similar interest, or I mean ultimately we all have the same goal. So I think meeting people has been one of just like the coolest parts of every single day. Is just basically making new friends every day, and seeing the generosity of people too has been just mind-blowing, because I've heard about, you know, like trail angels and trail magic and all of that, but it just far exceeded any expectations I had as far as people's generosity, for sure.
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's a cool point too. I think that's something that a lot of people who haven't thru-hiked are really like nervous about, is like, you know, you hear all the stories about whatever stuff that I know it exists or whatever. I think we've discussed it previously on trail, where it's like, you know, yeah, sure, like there are serial killers or people who want to hurt people or whatever else and stuff like that. But for the most part, I feel like when you're on trail, like, it's not that stuff doesn't exist. It's just that you see more, like exponentially, on orders of magnitude, more evidence of the contrary, of like the kindness and generosity of people,
Definitely.
the selflessness and just interest that people have in one another. That's one of the things I really enjoy about it. It's just like, it doesn't matter age, sex, creed, color, politics, whatever, like everyone's just kind of, it's just it's sort of more like a natural human experience that people are drawn to or interested in or whatever. So that's cool.
That's definitely something. It's a good point. I had heard of trail magic, trail angels, but would never have expected the order of magnitude, for sure. It's really blown me away.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's see. So Sierra, I mean, desert was great. But we've kind of been in the thick of it here the past 2 weeks, just about. Came over, you know, the highest point on the trail. Came over the most technical pass on the trail. We had one interesting ford. Well, I mean, yeah, pretty much just the one.
Yeah.
Do you want to share your anecdote about that interesting ford at all?
So we knew kind of briefly the night before, like, oh, we're going to have a Little Creek crossing in the morning. We had heard it'd be potentially like waist high, but we weren't really sure. And we got down there and it was about, I don't know, like 3:30 in the morning or so. And I believe it was in the mid-20s. It was one of our coldest days on trail. And we got down there and we looked at it, and it didn't seem so bad. Everything was surrounded in snow, as per usual in the Sierra right now. But we started crossing, or before we started crossing, we kind of figured there was like a channel that might be a bit deeper. And we realized just how deep it was. It was nearly waist high for me. And so crossing that in like 25-degree weather, I had also chosen to do it barefoot because it wasn't rocky. And knowing that the rest of the day was going to be hiking, obviously, we or at least I didn't want to get like my shoes and socks wet, so we all crossed it in either like sandals or just like neoprene socks, or for me barefoot, and it was one of the most uncomfortable experiences I've definitely had on trail, just doing that and then walking out onto the other side barefoot on the snow. Ice started forming on my toes. I was trying to get socks on so I didn't get frostbite. And then we just tried hiking basically as fast as possible to try and warm up our feet and save our toes. So definitely one of the most uncomfortable experiences, but I've also just been very grateful for the amount of snow bridges that I've held up. We haven't had anything collapse, and it's been nice to not constantly, but it's been nice to not have to deal with those on a constant basis, especially seeing just the absolute like torrent of water in basically every single, not only marked river and stream that we'd have to cross, but the just infinite amount of random little ones that don't normally exist that just due to this unprecedented weather, we've just been just tons of water, tons of snow.
Yeah, and you do still have all your toes, they're all working. And,
as far as I last counted, still got 10, so we're doing
good. So see, it's not all like just doom and gloom. It can be fun too, even with ice crystals forming on your toes. Let's see. How about the passes? Do you want to recount anything about any of the passes at all? Any particular favorites or most challenging, or any superlatives?
Yeah, I mean, well, Forster, I guess, is an obvious superlative.
Yeah. Because it's the highest.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's at 13.2 thousand, and that was just a really cool moment. It's the first major pass, so although we had been in the Sierras for quite some time before that, that's really the moment, at least for me, when I felt like I was there, like I was doing the Sierras.
Yeah, that was just the three of us, right? So everyone had already left. So that must have been day 4 or 5 or something.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, and then there's also just the realization that you are at the highest point on the trail, and that feels like such a milestone. So that was a great feeling for me, and also just kind of throughout college, I'd like be working really hard and just want to like be hiking or something.
Yeah.
And it was kind of this realization that I had made good on that promise to myself that I would go out and see nature and like let myself have a break from all that stress. So
I feel like you had a bit of a cathartic moment up there too, a bit of a primal yell, which I think I don't want to get into it too much, but I feel like that was a cool moment for you. So
it was,
yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. And Shade, any particular things? I mean, I know. So I addressed it just a little bit in the video from the day coming off. Of course, I mean, you already know which one I'm going to say. Do you want to?
I think I might have a guest talking about Glen Pass.
Yeah. So that was definitely a challenging descent off that. Just rough conditions and pretty much no trail. And for those of you who haven't hiked through like snow that is totally covering up rocks radiate heat from the sun and then create these big empty voids around them, and you can very easily pop through, and it can be quite dangerous and treacherous and really, really scary, because like, as I said, I mean, one day it got to me and I was saying like, I just get so frustrated when I feel like I'm doing everything right and making all the right decisions, and through no fault of your own, you can just meet, I mean, real bad situations. So coming off Glen, I know you were kind of stuck up at the top, and the snow conditions were deteriorating minute by minute, really. And coming down off there, and I don't know, I said in my video, while you were up top, working out how to get down, I was like, the thing about Shade is that, I forget the 3 adjectives I used. I was like, she's strong, she's brave, and she's smart, and she'll make it down. And sure enough, you did, happily and healthily and everything, thank goodness. But yeah, how was that moment for you to be, or moment, like how was that 2 hours for you to be up there?
Those were probably like the most difficult 2 hours I've had on trail, just in the sense of pure frustration.
Yeah.
Because I know we were all kind of waiting at the top so we don't stack and collapse kind of onto each other as we were going down. It was pretty much just like a incredibly steep descent where you're just kicking steps trying to get down as fast as possible, but it's incredibly exhausting, a lot more than you would think, to try and do it. Each step takes such an exorbitant amount of energy, and I remember getting down like 5 or 6 steps thinking, I must be like halfway down, looking up and seeing I'm like 7 feet from where I started, and then doing that for another 10 minutes, and then you've gone another 4 feet, and just getting kind of just more and more frustrated. Like we had gotten over the pass and it wasn't that bad, and you never think that going downhill is going to be difficult. You just kind of assume like, oh, the uphill is all of the work, and then it was kind of that day that proved to me that sometimes the downhill is significantly worse and more difficult than the uphill. But yeah, it was just incredibly frustrating. I remember just kind of stopping on the snow at one point and being like, I'm not getting down these like couple hundred feet. Because I remember seeing you two at the bottom, and no matter like how many minutes or even like an hour had passed, and it didn't seem like I'd made any progress. At one point we were thinking like, oh, we could just like, if we can get down to this one point, we can kind of stay down. But at that point, the snow had become so slushy that, like, I remember you telling me, oh, you're basically self-arresting, you're not glissading. And I remember just thinking like I didn't have the energy to try and self-arrest at that point, and so I was trying to just sit in the snow and kick my way down. Yeah. And even that, just knowing that the snow was so slushy that I wasn't going to be able to self-arrest if I needed to at that point because the snow conditions were just so bad. And so just literally moving inch by inch. Yeah. I think it took us a couple of hours to get maybe 200 feet or something down.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it truly was. It was a tough. And the thing about that too is like, it was totally unexpected. Like everything we had heard about Glen Pass was
okay,
cruise, easy, and the ascent I think was pretty straightforward.
But the descent, there was no boot pack. There was a boot pack, but then it just ended, and then you just had the kind of the cliff down to try and scramble down. But yeah, I don't think I have not been that frustrated on trail since or before that, and hopefully it won't happen again. But yeah, it was an afternoon, and then I think just knowing once I finally got down that we weren't going to make almost any more miles, and so even though we had hiked, I think I did the math, we hiked like 11 hours that day, and we only did not even 7 miles, I think. Yeah. And it was that kind of moment where everything clicked, like, okay, the Sierra is, people say it's rough, and that's for a reason.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. So we have, another 160 miles or something before Sonora Pass, I don't know, something like that. Hopefully, I think our next jump is going to be a little more straightforward. Hopefully, good God, I hope. It was beautiful, but
it's shorter at least.
Shorter at least, right? Yeah. No more 2-week jumps for me, hopefully ever, really. But
that was a lot.
Yeah. Is there what? I mean, clearly we still have a lot of the Sierra left, and clearly the Sierra is kind of renowned for being like the jewel of the whole trail, right? Are there any other particular sort of sections of the trail that you're most excited about, or kind of like most acutely on your radar as something to look out for, anticipate, or whatever? I don't know.
Not particularly. I kind of make a point of not looking into pictures and stuff like that ahead of time too much. I like it better if of course I've seen pictures of Forrester shoot, before getting there, so I knew what was up. But I like to experience things for the first time and kind of like not have expectations going into it. But I know Washington is renowned for its beauty, so I'm looking forward to Washington. And then also, I think that getting to the Bridge of the Gods will be a moment, because I've been there, and that's actually kind of, I think I had heard about the PCT before, but that's when it really entered my consciousness for real, Yeah. And so emerging from the woods there will, I think, be another cool full circle moment. So
for sure,
I'm looking forward to that.
Cool. And Shay, anything in particular that you're anticipating, or?
I feel like I'm surprisingly really excited for Northern California, which I feel like is a bit odd. A lot of people think that it's one of the more like sloggy kind of parts. You're just trying to get through. I visited Northern California quite a few times at this point, and it's always just kind of been such a beautiful, I think just it's very contrasting since I grew up in Southern California and Northern California, like both like geographically and just like nature-wise is so incredibly diverse and different than Southern California that it's always just sparked my interest that it's all in the same state. But I mean, obviously, we know that with everything that we've been going through, but yeah, I think I'm excited to get to Northern California and very excited to finish the state of California as well. Yeah. I think that'll be a really cool thing to be able to I've walked the entire state of California. Yeah. And just living here for so long and then, just walk through the whole state is really exciting. And Washington. I'm really excited for Washington as well. But the whole thing, I don't know if there's any part that I'm not excited for. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like that's one thing that's been interesting for me on this trail is like, the AT, I mean, you bag Georgia like in less than 80 miles, I think, and so you just kind of click from state to state to state. So even if you're going at the exact same speed, you just have all these sort of like benchmarks of feeling like you're making progress. And I mean, it's not that there aren't benchmarks on the PCT, but like the first really significant one is 700 miles in. That's when you hit the Sierra, right? Yeah. I mean, no disrespect to the desert at all, but like, there's just not. I mean, shoot, by the time you hit mile 700 on the AT, I think you've been through like 4 states or something, 5 states. I don't know. I mean, so it's just you get those constant sort of like little treats thrown at you, you know, where you get to see a new state or whatever.
Those dopamine bursts.
Right, exactly. Another thing I always like to ask about is if there any sort of particular type of gear or anything. I think most particularly, I'd be curious to hear. I mean, well, anything from the whole hike for one, but then most particularly for the Sierra. I know I have a few pieces of gear that were really kind of like I didn't expect to like as much as I did, or something that has worked or hasn't worked. Any particular types of gear that you want to shout out or just talk about briefly? I don't know, good, bad, or whatever.
Yeah. Overall trail, I kind of just happened into getting the REI Flash 55, and I've actually, it's my backpack.
The backpack, okay.
Yeah, and so it's 55 liters. I've actually really enjoyed it.
Cool.
It's been a very comfortable pack, and it has all these little loops that you can kind of tie stuff onto, and it's very adjustable. And so yeah, weirdly enough, the REI pack I think is, at least for me, a good entry into the, like, it's kind of at the border of ultralight. So you still have like an actual pack, but it's light enough, and it's worked great for me. Just kind of through lack of planning, ended up with that pack. Needed something fast, but it worked out great. And then for the Sierras, I'm not wearing it right now, but my fleece has carried me through this section. And the funny thing is, it was a $7 fleece from Goodwill. And
nice.
And I have absolutely loved it. You know, I'm a little cold in the morning, and then it lasts me all through the morning hours, and then after the sun comes up, and I feel like I'm comfortable in a wide range of temperatures. So that's been good through the Sierras, which was kind of surprising to me. I brought the puffy because I was worried I wouldn't be warm enough, but yeah, it's been great.
That's cool. So that's actually that's a kind of cool one for people to hear too, is that you don't necessarily need to run out and spend $1,200 on a pack and a freaking high tech whatever. Like, definitely Rabbit's having success. So you know.
Yeah, it's worked out.
Cool.
That and the solar panel as well.
Okay.
That was cool.
Which do you know the model or anything?
Yeah, so it's the Sunnybag Leaf Mini, and I might have mixed up the order of some of those words, but Sunnybag is the brand, and Leaf Mini is some order of the model.
Okay.
And that got my 20,000 milliamp hour battery back from 2 dots to 4 out of 4. So I ended the trip with 3 and allowed you to charge yours as well, and you know, so it worked out great. Yeah. I was really pleased.
Cool, very cool. And Jade, any particular sort of?
So I feel like, specifically for the Sierra, the first thing that came to mind is in Kennedy Meadows right before leaving. I happened to grab like a couple pieces of panel from someone's little like sit pad, or one of those the foldable pads, and that's something I hadn't had before, and has been the most like luxurious piece of item. You wouldn't think a piece of like foam would be so amazing, but you can put your feet on it, so you're not standing on snow, because we're in snow all the time. And so be able to take your wet socks and shoes off and like put your feet on that, or you can use it as a sit pad. Or you can put, like I put it on my tent, because my tent a lot of times will get wet from the bottom just from the snow and the heat. And so I can put like my electronics or my camera on that. And that has been such a little like life-saving piece of gear that I've been using pretty much like, I don't know, like a dozen times every single day. Across the whole trail, I've also been very satisfied with my pack as well. I have a ULA circuit, and it's been very comfortable despite not necessarily being made to carry like 50 pounds. It did it, and I can say pretty confidently that it's held up really well. Shoved it full of stuff. It packs really well, and yeah, I don't know. I'm very satisfied with my pack as well.
Cool. Well, that's 2 good things to be happy with. I mean, especially
definitely.
Again, I mean, and we're working a theme, so like a free foam pad that you got, that's a bonus too. So, boy, let's see what else. Let's see. We talked about. Gosh, what other interesting questions can I ask?
I mean, just one thing. I don't know if it fits into a question, but for me, it was kind of I guess along with the expectations versus reality kind of thing. I knew that the Sierras would be tough. I expected them though to be hiking with snow, this has not been the same as trail, but with snow. This has been like a completely alternate experience where we're not following the trail really at all. We're making our own path, and there's traverses, there's passes, there's like, my days have looked nothing like the rest of the trail.
Yeah.
We're waking up at 1 a.m. and leaving, or before that, and leaving at 2, and it's been a completely different experience from the rest of the trail. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Is that it's not just hiking in snow the way you might hike through a forest or across a desert or whatever. It's it is a totally different sort of thing. I mean, every day we're wondering about like when are we going to put on or take off our crampons? More put on than take off, but like weighing, are we going to take out our ice axe now or whatever? That's a good point. Is that it's just totally a different experience.
You never realize how much you love dirt until you see dirt.
Oh, dude.
It is like an event when we see dirt. We get really excited. I think it had been like, I don't know, it must have been like 8 or 9 days that we were camping like basically like straight on snow.
Yeah. And
then we happened to drop down to like, I don't know, it was like 8,500 feet elevation.
Yep.
We had dirt to camp on. And like, you have never seen 3 happier people. Then we threw our stuff everywhere. We had like, because normally, you don't want to put your stuff in dirt, but after you've been putting your stuff only on snow for like over a week, it's so exciting to be able to just put your stuff down. You can go like do whatever you need. You can, I don't know, you can put your stakes in the ground.
Yeah.
That was a really exciting moment to not
Instead
have to like bring your ice axe out and like chip into the ice and then realize your tent is, You never realize how much you appreciate little things until those little things are taken away from you. Like dirt's really exciting.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like when we're in the snow, setting up camp can take 2 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, because you got to shovel out your flat spot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you got to chip out your dead man holes and stuff, and
pack it all down.
Yeah. And on dirt, it's just like snap your fingers, boy, let's go. Like, let's go to sleep now.
Yeah. Versus the last thing you want to do after 12 hours of hiking is spend an hour shoveling snow.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned is it's one of just like the hardest things is you're exhausted. You've made it to camp. And normally you think like, hey, you're like camping, so you just, you pop up your tent and then you're good. And then you have to shovel snow for like 30, 40 minutes and then your spot still isn't level and then you just kind of give up and put your tent up anyways. Yeah.
Right.
It's just how it goes. So.
Yeah.
How has it been generally? I mean, with respect to the snow, the cold, thank God, like the mountains were very kind to us on this past jump. I think far more kind than they could have been. And we got very lucky with respect to weather and frankly, even temperatures and stuff.
Yeah.
But how has it been for you? I mean, I know, and myself as well, I wouldn't say I have extensive snow experience. I have some, for sure, from the CDT last year, but how has this experience been for you with respect to just the waking up super early, the camping on snow every night, dealing with the temperatures, dealing with the wet, dealing with the cold? Any particular sort of pieces of advice you might have, or sort of interesting realizations you've come to aside from just how wonderful dirt is?
So I'm from Atlanta. I have no snow experience before the PCT, really. So kind of cut my teeth on San Jacinto and Baden-Powell, and even that was nothing like the Sierras. It was kind of a little intro. I've learned a lot about snow, like reading snow, kinds of snow. And like you say, the weather actually, we've been very fortunate in that the temperatures have been cold enough to freeze overnight. And so we've had good walking conditions in the morning. But I can't lie, for me, I've flipped my sleep schedule by pretty much 12 hours. Because I used to go to bed pretty late, and now we're going to bed at 3 in the afternoon or something.
Right.
And never quite getting enough sleep, not feeling really well rested, and then you wake up and it's freezing cold, and I like do this little countdown to get myself like out of my sleeping bag and starting my morning and everything. And some mornings that's pretty tough because it's cold out there. It's been all right, and it's what you have to do. But that's been a tough part for sure.
Yeah. Have you guys? I know for me personally, it's like, frankly, it's knowing that you guys are going to be ready.
Yeah.
That gets me up and out of my sleeping
Definitely.
bag. And I don't want to be the last. I mean,
Yeah.
we spoke about this while the group was still together. Like I don't want to be the last one. I hate being the last one. And so frankly, like knowing that you guys are going to be up, it's kind of like a perfect little like three sticks leaning against each other sort of thing, where it's like,
For
if
sure.
one of them isn't there, the whole thing collapses.
Right, exactly.
No one wants to be the reason that everyone else is waiting an extra half an hour
Right.
while you're getting ready. Like you're kind of saying, it's definitely the biggest motivator is, like, I am panicking in the morning, trying to, like, dig my stakes out of the ground with my ice axe. Because the thing is you know that everyone else, if you're 30 minutes late, you know that everyone else could have gotten 30 minutes of sleep. And,
Right.
And recently that has just been such a major, major thing. I think it's interesting how you pointed out, like, you can start reading the snow, and I noticed that as well, is until we did the math, and I think we've been hiking on snow for like 100 hours or something.
Yeah.
And after 100 hours of walking on snow, you get to know the snow really well.
Yeah.
And so you can tell when it's icier, when it's more powdery, and some of that stuff sounds obvious, but it's a very, like, intimate kind of knowledge where you can tell how the conditions are going to be and how things are going to change. Learn to read weather really well now too. Is before it's like you see clouds in the sky and you're like, oh, maybe it'll rain, and now you can kind of tell, like, okay, we might have X amount of time. We might be this kind of precipitation. Oh, maybe it's moving away. Yeah, getting up in the mornings has definitely been really rough. I would consider myself a morning person, but at this point, I don't think anyone would count getting up at 1 a.m. as a morning. It's you're just I don't know what I would even count as. Most people don't get up at 1 a.m.
Count it as mountaineering, I guess.
Yeah,
or
it's just
something.
mountaineering at this point. I also had pretty limited snow experience before this. As the other two had as well. I had done Baden Powell and San Jacinto, and so I had been in the snow for like a few days here and there. I spent a little bit of over like winter and stuff. I'd gone up to the mountains and practiced doing things like ice axe practice and self-arrest and that sort of thing. But it's I think it's naive for me to say that I thought that would be sufficient. And I think going up to snow and then being in snow in the Sierra are two very different things. And that's something that didn't really click until before actually going out.
Well, I think that's an interesting point too, though, is like at some point all you can do is prepare as much as you can prepare.
Definitely.
Like certainly you want to practice self-arrest before you get out on the snow. I mean, before you get off in serious conditions in the snow, basic safety stuff like that. I think you want to familiarize yourself with sort of the general broad strokes. But like, I mean, like you said, like every time you're out in the snow or whatever, you're learning more about the texture of the snow. And every time you're out in the mountains, if you're paying attention, which you darn sure better be, like you should be observing sort of the pattern recognitions of weather and everything else. And I feel like that's a good point where, you can and you should really definitely should prepare yourself as much as you possibly can, but almost even more so than that, once you're out there, keep your eyes wide open all the time and make sure that you're looking for whatever strange fissure patterns or different colorations of snow or whatever weird avalanche washes that have happened, and you can kind of anticipate that the snow might be a different texture or crunch or whatever. Noting when the snow changes or what time the sun is rising and stuff like that. And it's that sort of stuff that I think is, for one, it's really interesting because it gives the brain something to chew on as you're just walking along through the tedium of, a really hard afternoon or whatever. But it's also just, it's really educational, frankly. Like,
Definitely.
I remember being a kid and learning like Inuits have whatever, like 500 different words for snow. And I feel like in my somewhat dated education at this point, perhaps it was told to us to make us think like, wow, those silly Inuits or something, how could they have so many words for one thing? And now I'm out here and I'm like, dude, 500 doesn't seem like enough. Like there's a lot.
Saying snow does not cover anything.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything to me. Like I mean, there's just billions of different kinds.
It changes over 10 minutes, like the same kind of snow. 10 minutes later, it's not the kind of snow you were just on.
Yeah, like we'll stop for a quick snack or get water, and when we stand back up 5 or 10 minutes later, it's different. It's totally different. So
I think another interesting thing as far as like being prepared versus just going out is your senses change. I think we were kind of talking about this as well.
Yeah, good call.
There's like kind of like the jokingness of like your senses change and you can smell different things and you can smell like dehik or like soap and stuff. But I think more than that, it's also been sound has been a very interesting one. I remember there was one day where we basically had to take an entire day off and we were just sitting in the snow. And every time like you would hear anything, whether it be like the sound of water off in the distance, or like a plane overhead, and everyone just kind of freezes and stops because it's so silent out that you notice sounds and you're very aware of them. One way this has been important has been water. There's no really reliable way to figure out when you're going to have water. Most of the streams and stuff are covered over. Even the ones that it's where the water is broken through, you can't actually access them because the sides are too steep with snow, or it's too dangerous, or if the afternoon it's too slushy and you're scared of falling in. And every once in a while we'll be hiking along, and then, someone will be like, okay, we need to stop for a second, because off the far distance you can hear snow and you can hear the water and you can follow it, and you'll see this like tiny little patch of snow that is broken open, and that's where you can collect your water. And I think that's been kind of a cool thing to see, is just the way that your senses kind of change and adapt, and you can kind of survive by just listening for water, so that you're not relying on melting snow or doing different kind of things like that.
Right. That's a cool point too. Yeah, I feel like that's one of the cool things about, and most acutely probably in the Sierra, honestly, for any place I've been, is just that it is so quiet. I mean, was it at the foot of Mather, right? Where like we were all sitting there, and I just observed it was literally the quietest I think it was the quietest I've ever experienced. The most quiet. I don't know how to explain that. But like there was literally nothing anywhere. There was nothing anywhere.
No insects, no birds. Except for that one plane that made us all like completely freeze up.
Yeah, right. I thought it was thunder. Couldn't like, if you can't immediately identify a sound, you just come to a dead stop. And there was that interesting night too, where we were all just about getting ready to bunk up or whatever, getting our camps together. And you guys both, I was busy shoveling, so I couldn't really hear much. I was just hearing the sound of the shovel. But you guys both heard an avalanche, and we looked out across the valley and saw an avalanche happen. So what was it, like 2 avalanches and a rock slide I think we've seen already. So that's all pretty neat. I'd prefer to see them from a distance, as was the case in all these. But yeah, I mean, it's just been an interesting experience. I don't know, sort of as we sort of with an eye towards wrapping up here, any sort of final thoughts maybe? I mean, I know that so clearly I've done the other 2 trails and I'm trying to go for my triple, and you guys are on your first Thru-Hikes. Any observations that you'd care to share with people who are thinking about getting on trail, who are wondering what it's like, wondering if they should, wondering how they can? Any sort of thoughts about Thru-Hiking in general, or words for people who might be thinking about coming out or something? I know this is a big question. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I guess for my part, I've gotten out here, and as I've said before to them, it's hard for me to imagine not doing this again. So I've really liked it. And the only way I was going to figure that out is coming out and doing it. I mean, I guess you can do an extended backpacking trip. Like if you haven't done any backpacking, then I guess make sure you like backpacking first, and then you can make the leap to a very long trip like this. But yeah, I don't think I have any like profound
that's fine.
like advice or anything, but get out in nature and try it, and if you like it, then maybe a 5-month trip is for you.
right. Yeah, cool. All right, cool. And Shade, anything?
Yeah, I would kind of say like the same thing, like just go out, try it. There are some people who have been out here, it's very impressive, who have been on like, I've been on like 1 overnight backpacking trip, and they're doing just fine. I don't know if I necessarily recommend that, in the sense of it's hard to know you like something just from doing it once, but at the same time, this is a lot more than backpacking. It's a lot of like socializing and talking to people, if you want it to be like that. But it's just an incredible experience, and it's the kind of thing that I haven't met a single person who's regret it being out here. There are people that I've met that I've gotten off trail for different reasons, that it's too long, or it's too hard, or it's just something that they realized they didn't want to do for 5 months. But I've never met someone who's regretted getting out here. I think that any amount of time on trail has been an incredible experience, and it truly is life-changing, in the sense of you realize you have a lot of time to think too when you're hiking all day. But it's been the most incredible experience, and for anyone who's even thinking about doing it, like go out, do it, find a way, if possible, for 5 months, abandon the rest of your life and go hike.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks guys. And I always also like to ask, just if you have any social media you want to plug at all, Instas or anything else. No pressure. If you want to keep it private, that's totally fine. But I want to try and like spread the love around if there's anyone who's interested in following your channel. So Anything you want to shout out at all?
Yeah, I'm about a month behind on my Instagram, but if you want to follow along, then it's Caleb on PCT. Caleb is CALEB, and then just on PCT, and that's my Instagram.
Cool.
And mine is a little overly complicated, but it's Jess._.coop, COOP. So
Very cool.
that's me on Instagram, and I carry around a big ass camera, so hopefully I'll get around to posting some of those pictures.
She got a crazy picture of the Milky Way our first night out.
Oh, that's true.
Hopefully, I'm working on the photos right now, so hopefully they'll be up soon.
Yeah.
Which I was actually really excited about because it was my first time seeing the Milky Way.
Yeah.
So I've got a nice picture to go along with
it. Awesome. Cool, guys. Well, thanks so much for sitting down and taking some time out of your breakfast of ice cream.
Late afternoon.
Yeah, it's yogurt.
Protein.
Yogurt. Don't worry about it.
Yogurt.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. I'm really excited about the next chapter with you guys. It's been great.
For sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.